We'll say goodbye to the viewers and then we'll just continue to catch up. To catch up?
Yeah, have some fish and chips and ketchup.
Absolutely. I hope that this has lived up to your expectations. If it hasn't, then blame Cathy. This channel is all about positivity. Constructive criticism is welcome. Hate will not be tolerated. Hi everybody, welcome to the channel. Today I am joined by Cathy, who is a friend and honestly such an inspirational person. I absolutely adore Cathy. Off you go. Who are you?
Oh, I'm Cathy. I'm from the East Midlands in the UK. 5 years ago, this is something I don't necessarily talk about very often, but 5.5 years ago, I came out as transgender. Today we're going to be looking at how I do my makeup each day. I'm at the point now where I think I could probably go out without my makeup. Do you ever watch Dumbo, the film Dumbo?
Yes.
If you did, Dumbo, he couldn't fly without the twig. Well, for me, it used to be my hair before I had a hair transplant and also my makeup. So going out without makeup, I would feel a little bit anxious and probably still would today. I just need to get a cable. My phone's just said, you're low on charge. It's like,
of course
no,
it did.
Sorry about this.
Of course it did. That's fine. So how would you usually sort of start your day, makeup-wise?
So my day would normally start off with going to the bathroom, get myself showered and have a shave, which I have to do less and less these days because of electrolysis working very well on me now. But that's probably one of the bits which gives me the most amount of dysphoria these days, is my sort of remnants of my beard. I sort of put some moisturiser on. I've got some serums which I put on as well, and that just helps hydrate the skin. Then I put the cream on. And then I go and get my breakfast, and then I come back and I put some primer on my face then. Really super important to get the primer on, I find, because it helps me get an all day sort of makeup.
I'm actually going to apply a little bit extra SPF just because I'm probably going to take the dog out for a walk after speaking with you, but I just want to make sure that I've layered up on sun cream.
I think SPF is such an important thing to put on as well. I mean, I'm getting a little older, a little more mature, but I've been fortunate. You know, my skin hasn't changed as a result of too much sun exposure, which has been good. The primer I tend to use is one from MAC, and one of the things I did in my early days of transition, I went to an organisation in Manchester, and I spent £100 on this makeup lesson, but it was basically all morning, and it was the best money I spent because I learned how to do my makeup. What I'll be showing you today is what I learned, because I haven't really varied it substantially. I've tweaked it, but it's still pretty much the same as I was taught, and for me that works well.
And it was, Cathy, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a class that was specifically for women with a transgender background, is that right?
Correct. The organisation I used, it was an organisation called Born. They are a transgender organisation, and the person who taught me is no longer there, but the Paul, who looks after a business now, he does all the makeup, and he specialises in transgender makeup. I tried beforehand and it was like a clown. It really was. It was not pretty at all.
It's harder than it seems, especially eyeshadow. Eyeshadow is one of those things that it takes practice.
That's an eyeliner, I think. Eyeliner was probably the hardest thing, yeah.
Which sort of primer do you use? Is it a more moisturising one, a more mattifying one? What do you tend to go for?
It's one which, like I say, it's from MAC. It's a Prep and Prime. And it helps sort of control any oil you've got on your face. Okay. Now, particularly when you think about a trans woman in the early days of transition, the skin is still a male skin, if you want to think of it in that sense. Biologically, it's a male skin, so it can be more oily. And so using something like a primer helps control that oil. It's a nice bit of a tint. You can probably see at the end, it's a bit of a yellow one. And this can help just cool down some of the redness in my skin.
That sounds cool.
Particularly here, when I've had a shave, I get like a red spot. You may still see it a little bit.
I'm going to use one from Sephora, which is a mattifying one. So I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea.
I've already primed my face, so I'm good to go.
Have you? Oh, I'll be a minute. Another thing that we were talking about as well, a lot of people don't know that a lot of women shave. I mean, I shave every couple of weeks. I have lots of like blonde sort of peach fuzz. I have hair kind of over my lip as well. And I think a lot of women do shave, but I don't think it's a thing that's talked about.
Facial hair for women is just, like you say, it's not something people talk about.
No, they don't.
I mean, it's talked about more in the transgender women community.
Yeah.
But on the whole, it's still one of those areas where you don't talk about.
It's as if it's like unnatural for a woman to have facial hair, and it's like, no, I'm pretty sure we all do.
Particularly as we get older, whether you're transgender or cisgender. So cisgender, you are of the same gender as you were assigned at birth. A cisgender woman, they will have probably hormonal changes. If you have a baby, that causes hormonal changes. Then you've got menopause. It can all contribute to getting the hairs, and particularly 100%. On the top lip, getting a nice little moustache.
But we're on the same page about that. Also, FYI, I think I had a little bit of chocolate around my face. I was eating a chocolate ice cream before I... So apologies if I've caught that on camera. I've been caught. What do we do next, Cathy?
So then I use something called Painterly. Now this helps sort of correct around underneath my eyes. Painterly is from MAC. It's a nice little paint pot. It's like another form of primer, but it's much thicker. So I just get a little brush and I just get a bit on, and then I will just sort of go under the brow line. And this, I find, it just helps the eyeshadow stay on a little bit better.
So it's like a thicker eye primer.
Yeah, but it also covers any imperfections you've got. Now, I'll do this eye still, I'll continue down here, and then you can come down here. So this is what I do to counteract the darker area under my eye. A lot of people will use like a lipstick, an orange lipstick, and we're going to talk about that more in a minute. But I would sort of do this, and I would go around. I might have to use a proper mirror in a second.
I'll probably use a kind of thicker concealer.
I mean, a concealer would do a job just as well. I've got some broken capillaries on my cheeks, which gives a bit of a redness to my cheeks. So I tend to use a bit of this just to go down, and I just sort of brush it on. That works quite nicely. I'll do the other eye. You could, in your case, Rita, some ladies, they're a little blue underneath the eye, so putting some orange lipstick or even a sort of slightly reddish orange works best. Seeing as we're on the subject of disclosure and things which I don't normally talk about, I used to have quite a big bushy beard.
Oh, do you know what? I'm actually really enjoying this thing of putting the concealer under the eye and over the eye, because it's sort of like already defined my brows a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
See, I'm already learning new tricks. I'm going to pause and we're going to go over the first or one of the 4 questions. So this one I thought was a great question. It is, do you feel that there is more pressure on your appearance since becoming a woman?
Okay, yes, but I also want to reframe the question a little bit.
Okay.
So I know what the person's saying, but I have always been a woman, but I've actually was assigned male at birth because of when we looked between my legs when I was born, they said it's a boy. In actual fact, I knew when I was 6 years old. I've had what we call a gender recognition certificate, which actually gives me a new birth certificate. So that records me as being born female.
That's amazing, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was something which I got probably about 2 months ago.
That's brilliant.
So I am legally female. All my records have been changed for everything now. I am now seen as female.
You've always felt it, you've always knew it, but now legally is reflected that way.
Totally. Yes, I feel there's a pressure on me. There's one transgender day of remembrance event I went to very early on in my transition, and it nearly scared me to death, and nearly, potentially it could put someone off, because this person was saying they had dared to go out in a major city in the UK without a makeup on, and they were subject to the most horrendous hate. They were spat at and they were punched just for having the temerity of going out and no makeup on, and it was clear they were transgender. And yeah, it's horrible. It can be horrible. I've had a bit of that, but on the whole, for me, it's not been an issue. But I found learning to put my makeup on well, for me, has been a great benefit.
Do you feel like you do your makeup in the morning for you,
I do. I mean, I do it because it makes me feel good, but also in the early days particularly, it helped other people understand where I was coming from. It's up to everybody whether they decide they want to wear makeup or not, male or female. Some people in society feel the need to make observations or criticisms, which is unfair, and it can put expectations on us. And I think, it can be tough for women.
100%, totally agree.
Society sees people in a binary form, so you're either male or female. So I tried to make myself on a female binary as much as possible when I came out. Probably went a bit over the top in a way, but it gave people clues, every reason. So there was no reason for anyone to misgender me or whatever.
This is so good. Honestly, I'm like having the time of my life. What do we do now, Cathy? We've done an under eye primer. What's our next step?
Eyeliner. This is a Maybelline Lasting Drama Gel Pen. It's a bit waxy.
Gotcha.
What I tend to do is, as you can probably see, it's gone a bit sort of, bit blunt. So I tend to get a bit of kitchen paper or a towel and just turn it around, just sharpen it up a little bit.
Today I woke up and I chose to look like a raccoon.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, you just need to be a bit careful with eyes, particularly as we get older. You lovely young ladies, you can get away with more sort of liner around. The cat's eye sort of look I would love to do, it doesn't suit me at all. Because my skin has sagged a little bit, it's like, okay. So I just tend to hold it and then I will just sort of draw along. Some women will do full bottom of the eyelid. I tend to probably do 3/4.
I do the same. And you're using black, aren't you?
No, actually, I'm using volcanic brown.
Well, I went in with black, so I've got a rock chick vibe thing going on. Right, so let's do 3/4 in. Oh my gosh, I'm really feeling this. This is so different from what I would normally do.
You like that?
I love it. Look, I'm going to get closer to the FaceTime so that you can
Well, I can see it's defined your eyes nicely. Yeah, that looks good. So is eyeshadow next. Now, I have one of these, it's actually 4 in one.
Ooh.
It's made by L'Oreal. I think it was about £6 or £7 for that. And what I do is I tend to use the lighter one, and I will just go along underneath the brow line. It will seem, when we've done this in a few minutes, it will seem like very distinct stripes. You'll see how I'll blend it in shortly. In today's world, we're in COVID-19, still mask wearing times. Defining your eyes sort of really highlights things for when we're talking with people, when we're interacting with people, wherever they may be.
I just find putting makeup on so therapeutic.
You'll probably laugh at this, but when I first started applying makeup, my first few times, it took me about a couple of hours to do. And then now I've got this down to, I can do a work look very easily in about 20 minutes. When I've finished, I put things inside a little makeup bag, which is so I've got everything tidy, ready for the next day.
I do the same. This leads me nicely to another question we had from someone on Instagram.
Sure.
Did you always wear makeup, or did you start wearing makeup after you transitioned?
I dabbled beforehand. I used to work at a mental hospital, psychiatric hospital, and people like me back in the early mid-80s, we were seen as sexual deviants. And it was just one of those things you thought, do I really want to tell anyone about it? And the treatment that people got in the mental hospital at the time was awful. Electric shock therapies of different kinds to correct their deviancy or inadequacies.
Wow.
That made me think I was never going to tell anyone about it. So I experimented with eyeliner, I experimented with a bit of brow definition. But the problem was having a beard, it made me feel bad, but it made me feel good. The makeup made me feel good in a way, but then it made me feel bad as well. So not a great sort of combination.
Just to kind of sort of go back to what you were saying there, Cathy, that treatment in the 1980s, that really struck me. Just because the 1980s are not really that long ago. I
remember in the papers in the 1970s and early 80s, it was a sensational thing, sex change person, Things have changed hugely. I think the pendulum swings and it's swinging back against the transgender. I think it's anyone, if you're in a minority group, it can be a challenge.
How cool is it that accidentally we ended up scheduling this call for Pride Month?
Yes. I use the sort of more of a coppery one, a little bit more sort of just round towards the corner of the eye and fill out a little bit. There is a classically right and wrong answer to makeup, but I think it's however it makes you feel and you feel good about it. I mean, when it comes round to a Pride event, hopefully I'll be able to go to one this year. I'll probably experiment with some Pride colours sort of eye makeup and sort of have a bit more fun there. But now we've done the sort of the outer and we've done a bit of the inner eye, we're going to do more of the outer eye. And so I will just sort of do around here. Now you don't have to be hugely accurate, I don't find.
I feel like I should have booked the table out for dinner now because I'm starting to feel really fabulous.
Good stuff.
I mean, I have the plumber coming over. I don't know if that counts as an occasion. Cathy's phone has died, so we're waiting. We're back!
In the room. Before the camera gave out, we were talking, we've got this sort of the 3 tones of the eyeshadow on the eyes. I mean, particularly the top one, with a very light sort of shimmer, I find that is sort of like so obvious. Now, you could use the existing makeup, the original eyeshadow brush. However, I find that can make it a little bit mushy, so I tend to have a little bit of another brush and I just sort of stroke around and just sort of blend it in a little bit more. But you don't want to sort of mix them up too much, but you're just trying to soften the edges between the different shades you've put on.
So do you use a clean brush, like there's nothing on it? Or is there a wee bit of shadow in it?
No, it's a clean brush. So we've done most of the framing of the eyes. Next thing is, let's do the brows. Now, I would never have thought I'd be brushing my eyebrows at all, but it really is quite important to do because it just helps get your brows, all the hairs going nicely. I either use a crayon. There is also, you can get a variety of like little pens. I look straight into my mirror, straight up to where the brow should start, so I understand. The arch should be, if you're looking straight ahead, you get the pencil at the side of the nose going through the centre of the eye, and that's where your brow should arch, just there. And then if you go from the corner of the nose to the corner of the eye, that's where your brow should finish. I mean, you do it how you want. I mean, if you want to have brows down to your cheeks, fine, you know, but it's a slightly different look.
Do you? Exactly.
So do you see how I've got the arch there nicely? And if I just do that, you see how I've gone to it? It's sort of like following that line. As you probably know, I also have an electrolysis clinic.
Yes.
And so I'm starting to, I also do electrolysis on my brows, particularly if you have a mono brow and you don't want a mono brow.
Sorry, I just kicked the stand again. Hi! Okay, I'm going to ask this one, and again, trying to read it from a distance, so apologies. Sorry if this is a silly question, but I legitimately don't know. Should we say transgender woman, or should we just say woman?
It's a great question,
Yeah.
and it's quite a profound one in some ways. A few years ago, I'd have said I was a transgender woman. Now I would say I'm a woman with a transgender history, maybe, which is kind of subtly different. You could always get round it by saying that person, they. Using gender-neutral pronouns is a good way of doing it. If you're unsure, why not just ask the transgender person how they define themselves? What are your pronouns?
Yeah. And you think that that's something that is okay to ask, that people wouldn't be like offended or...
As the conversation goes and the person starts to feel a sense of rapport with you, that's probably a really good way of them starting to relax and say, actually, I define as this.
Does
that answer the question?
I think it does. Whoever asked, does it?
Well, I hope it does.
Because if not, we're not recording this again for you.
So we're moving on now. And this is where, particularly in the early days, I would have a bit of a blue sort of round here and round here from my beard. I was taught to use an orange lipstick, and initially it was MAC, of course, which is quite expensive, using MAC lipsticks. So I found some Maybelline. This one is Craving Coral. Ooh. So it's quite a nice one. I've got another one of these, and I would just go into there and stipple around. You can buy some more special stuff from MAC in this case. The idea is the orange tone will help sort of take away the blueness. Now I'll just take that off because I don't necessarily, reduce it because it'll look a bit odd. So it's on to foundation now. I tend to use one of two foundations. MAC is what I wear, probably this one, and this is a NW20, so it's a warm tone as opposed to a cold tone, and this is ideal for more winter times and stuff like that. The other one I tend to use is double wear, Estee Lauder double wear, so it's a very nice one, more for going out, I have to say. Quite a few trans people I know of go to Boots, and they use the number 7 one, I think it is. And the nice thing about Boots is they do a colour sort of check of you, and they can tell you which colour of foundation is going to suit you best.
I have a number 7 foundation somewhere here, so I might actually go and use this one. I am in the process of making a full face of number 7 video. And what do you apply it with? Do you do brush, sponge, both?
My foundation from here using a brush, and then I blend with a sponge afterwards. I have a little plastic bag, you know those little resealable food bags? Yeah. Foundation brush, one of these little pots inside, and you can sort of just top up as you need. In the early days of transition, my beard grew so quickly, I was having to shave 2 or 3 times a day. Little tip here is I tend to look upwards, so the skin is looking a little bit torted out. Because I'm older, I'm in my mid-50s, I've got a little bit of saggy skin just under the eyes. It's not too bad, but it's a little bit. I've earned my crinkles there. Just at the corner of my eyes, I just go up like this, just so that I'm going up to where the edge of the brow is, and I'm bringing it down. And you'll probably see that I'm going over my lips as well with the foundation. I don't worry about that. So it also helps prepare the lips, I find, a little bit. So now I'm just going to do the other side. I'm just coming down my neck here now. I'm not going to go too mad down here, but because of I still have some beard hair here, and like I said, when I shave, I tend to get a red spot just here. I tend to have to put a bit of foundation on there.
What's next?
Is going to be a blusher. It's called Mocha, so it's a sort of a pinky colour, and I just get a broader brush like this. It even says blusher on it as well. I'm just looking just to add a bit of dimension.
I love blush. I have a problem with blush where I just put too much on.
If I've done too much, I get my foundation brush again, and I just go in and just sort of stroke it out a bit, and it just softens off, and it's all good. I
am really loving this makeup, by the way.
This is my everyday look, and it takes me from daytime into evening. So next thing, bronzer. Just to give a little bit of light and shimmer. I tend to pinch my brush on the hairs just like that, so it makes it more firm, and then I'll just blend it out in a minute. I do find pinching the bristles just helps out a little bit. And then you can see I'm just sort of brushing around, just sort of blending into the blush there. I would now sort of pick up some more bronzer, and I would go around my hairline. The lightening bit I'm using now, there's sort of a mineralizing finish. This is quite a nice peachy sort of soft and gentle, it's called. And I just get a brush which is similar to the one I just used for blending in, and I just sort of stroke across lightly like that. And then I'm just going to
sort of illuminate,
going upwards to try and uplift the eyes. Then I will also put a little bit just on the bridge of my nose here, and going up in between my brows. We're almost done. I tend to do my lips next. I tend to use a lip pencil, quite a sort of a dark pinky brown colour. I don't know if you can see that. And sometimes I will overdraw my lips, so it makes my lips look bigger, and sometimes I just follow a natural lip line. For work, I would probably leave myself at this. I may put a lipstick on. I have a very nice sort of pinky one. This is called Girl About Town. And it is quite nice if you want to have a bit more sort of exposure about your lips.
I'm liking this combination. I've done a kind of darker lip liner and a slightly lighter lipstick inside as well, and I'm quite feeling it.
So my mascara is the thing which often I go to on my way to work. I'm looking in the mirror and suddenly think, you not put your mascara on. I could use a very expensive brand, but I tend to use one from a supermarket. Looking down to do my top lashes, looking up to do my bottom lashes. So you're not getting mascara all over the place.
I already had a wee bit of mascara from earlier, so this is technically my second coat. Mascara can make such a difference because, as I said, I went out shopping and all I've done was done my skincare, SPF, mascara, and you already feel like a different person when you've got mascara. I'm gonna look so glamorous, literally, to go across the road to the park to take my dog out for a walk. He's gonna be like, my mum really made an effort today to take me out for ice cream. He's right here, he's been here staring at me the whole time. Haven't you, son? You wanna come say hello? Your Aunt Cathy? How are you? How are you, Bunny?
Oh.
There we go.
Almost done.
Right, we're gonna go walkies.
And I think that's pretty much what I would do. I'd just probably do a few little tweaks just to change things if I felt I needed to, but generally,
I feel so fabulous, Cathy. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'll show you in a second, I'll get closer. I could wear this during the day and it'd be fine. I could wear this going out, it'd be fine. Before we start wrapping up, there is actually a question. So it's the last question that I was asked on Instagram to ask you. Is there anything that you would like everyone to be aware of? Anything you'd like everyone that's watching this video to be aware of?
Good question, good question. I could sum it up in, and it's not just about transgender, people who are transgender. Just be nice to people. You know, people feel that they have a right to pass comment or not very nice comments very often on all kinds of things. We're all just wanting to get by in the world, wanting to do our best in the world. No one's here to do things, we're not wanting to do things maliciously. I mean, we could look at this in the sense of gender, we could look at it in the sense of sexuality, we could look at it in the sense of race. So everyone's just trying to get by, so just be nice.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, yeah, I don't need to add anything to that. We'll say goodbye to the viewers and then we'll just continue to catch up. To catch up?
Yeah, have some fish and chips and ketchup.
Absolutely. I want to say a huge thank you to you, Cathy, for taking time to come on the channel, be so open, so amazing about it, teaching not only these wonderful techniques but also giving us an insight as to what it's like to be in your shoes, to educate us a little bit more. I think that the more we talk, the more we become accepting, the more we become educated. So yeah, I can't thank you enough. And I know that the people that follow me on YouTube, that follow me on Instagram, are really looking forward to this video. I hope that this has lived up to your expectations. If it hasn't, then blame Cathy.
In many ways, my struggles are not hugely different to any other woman's. But when people add in a mixture of gender, that's when it gets a bit peculiar for some people. But fortunately, they're in the minority. Thank you very much anyway for inviting me along for this. Only my ex-wife and the hospital, when I was in hospital 18 months ago, saw me without makeup. No one else has ever seen me without makeup as Cathy.
You look just as beautiful as you do right now. So
thank you.
Yeah, you look absolutely wonderful, and thanks for honouring us with that and your presence, Cathy. For everybody watching, I hope you had a wonderful time. I can't wait to see you all again next week, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.